Hey everybody, welcome to my workshop here at Miller's Farm Shop. Today is another Q&A. If you remember last week, we were doing a general Q&A in terms of wood turning. And this week we're looking into the wonderful world of sharpening. So I tend to, as a tutor, there's a couple of key things when it comes to starting out your wood turning journey. And I've always found that sharpening to be a real stumbling block, apart from the turning itself, of course. And of course, if you don't have your tool sharpened that well, then you're not going to progress that quickly with your turning at all. There are a few things that have come along and to try and help with that, carbide tip tools, for instance. But I still have a bit of an issue with anybody that says you can get as good a finish from a carbide tool as you can from an actual cutting tool. I know that may be disputed a few times by several people, but that's what I think. I'm very much a traditionalist when it comes to turning tools. So all the usuals, the bowl gouges, spindle gouges, skew chisels, roughing gouges, all those sorts of things, and occasionally scrapers that are going to creep in. So today really is to talk a little bit about how I sharpen, what we've got in this workshop for sharpening. And as I said last week, I don't own a linishing type sharpening system, whether that's a Pro Edge, whether it's an Ultimate Edge. I don't like them. I don't think they sharpen as well as an abrasive wheel. But that's for me. And you know, I know a lot of people like the linishing type. So even though I said I wouldn't answer that many questions, I won't answer any questions on them. We'll still go there because I know probably 50% of you have got a linishing type sharpening system. But I don't want to throw that open. I don't want to make it a Q&A session just on those types of sharpening systems. Now, one of the questions that I've already seen on the chat was about the Pro Edge. So we may as well talk about the elephant in the room straight away. And the question was, how do we sharpen a Colwyn Way signature skew on a Pro Edge? And if I'm honest with you, I'd probably do it freehand, because if you follow what Sorby say, they say that skew chisels should be 15 degrees. And if you're already struggling with a skew chisel, 15 degrees is far too of an acute angle to be using on a skew. And unless you're very well practiced with a skew, that will cause you more problems. I would stick to about 25 degrees to start you off on your skew journey. And then you can bring it back as you get better. But I tend to go freehand. And not forgetting that with skew chisels, I will never expect to replace a skew chisel in my lifetime. That's because not every sharpen is going to be on the mechanical sharpening system, whether that's a Pro Edge, Ultimate Edge, abrasive wheel of any type, or Tormek. Probably 1 in 8 times just to reshape. Most of the time, though, I'm using a diamond hone. This is a trend diamond hone, but any of the DMT diamond hones, any diamond hone really, and using a fine edge on that. And all that would be is just a case of, when it goes a little bit dull, putting your finger behind and literally just giving it a couple of wipes over on both sides just to keep it going. Do that sort of 7 to 8 times and then do a mechanical sharpen just to get your lines back. And whether you choose to do by hand, like I do most of the time, literally straight onto the wheel, and which we're going to talk about in a minute, or setting up in a jig, you're still 1 in, like I say, 1 in 8, 1 in 10 times. Now I'm going to set this up in a minute, so we're going to get some close on camera angles and all that sort of stuff. I'm going to set it up in my jigs, so I want to talk about that. Before I go, and before I carry on talking, we've got Farmer Tom on the camera trickery, and I'm relaying your questions. So if you do get any questions, we're going to answer them pretty quickly, only because last week we were doing a lot and we were losing questions up the stream of talk. So I want to help Tom out this week and make sure we answer those questions as quick as we can. So Tom, is there anything to start with before I carry on rabbiting?
No, I think you can carry on rabbiting initially, and then hopefully it'll bring up some questions as we go.
Excellent. Okay, nice. So we'll keep in mind that skew question, and we'll look at how we set it up in a jig if we want to. In the meantime, I'm just going to talk about what I've got here in my workshop and how we sharpen. And I've set this up especially for training, so to make it nice and easy for people to learn to sharpen. You got a question, haven't you?
Yeah, walked straight in. Yeah, great. Do you feel it's worthwhile to strop a skew?
Yeah, very much. Depends on the job in hand. So I've been using them this morning, which you'll see in a little Instagram video later on, to do some Akoya lamp tops and bottoms, so bases and crowns. And I've been using it as a scraper. So I haven't stropped that. What I've done is just use my fine diamond tool just to put a little micro burr on one side. That's not affected the use of the skew, because when I want to use it as a skew, then I'll just use micro fine hone the other side, and it works. But yeah, let's talk about that then. So we'll talk about honing and the reasons behind honing. So I've got two machines here, but we've got lots of different sharpening parts to these. So we'll take you along the journey. Is everything in shot if I talk this? Yep, excellent. Thank you, Tom. So let's start. First of all, we've got a slow speed bench grinder, so running about 1400 revs instead of 3,000 to 4,000 revs. So that in itself keeps everything cool, keeps the steel cool. But I then got the Tormek here, my favorite sharpening system. I class this as the Rolls-Royce of sharpening system. We're going to discuss why it's important to have a good fine edge as well. But let's just go through the wheels, what we've got here. We've got aluminium oxide. We've got a CBN. We've got a diamond wheel on the Tormek, and then I've got my leather honing here. And then I've got a leather profiled honing wheel as well. So that's for the inside of gouges. It's important when you're using the honing, of course, to use some abrasive paste, because just the leather strop on itself won't work. So abrasive paste or something like a green soap, if you're using a piece of leather, an old belt, or that sort of thing. And that's your cutting compound to make it work, basically. And that will take off your little microfibers, micro burrs on your tools when you're using it in conjunction with the leather wheels. Now, I know Tormek, I can't remember what the number is, but the Tormek now have a composite wheel here instead of leather, so you wouldn't need to use the honing paste, for instance. So that's a new advancement from Tormek, which is quite a good one to have. I haven't. I've got the old one. I've got the leather here. Okay. Tom, yes. I'm going to take a glass of water while
there is. Callum's just wondered if his 12 blunt chisels turned up this morning in the post, readying for this sharpening session.
Funny that. No, they haven't yet, Callum. I'm sure they will, though. You know you're welcome to pop in anytime. That's not an invitation to everybody just to come in with their blunt tools, by the way. But Callum's passing fairly often. So just glass of water a minute. So let's start right back at the beginning. Aluminium oxide. Back in the day when we first started, when we first started sharpening, but before all this lovely equipment turned up, and we're talking probably 30 years ago, 35, 40 years ago, maybe, we didn't have a huge choice with us, really. We had carborundum was probably one of the things that most of us started on. In fact, a lot of people still start on grey wheels or brown wheels. And usually a fine-ish one on one side and then a really, really coarse one on the other. Now, they were fine. But back in the day then, most of us had carbon steel tools, as some still do. And it did heat up the steel extremely quickly. And with carbon steel as well, you do produce some pretty hot sparks. So you had to keep quenching. So a little jar of water to quench. You still have to do that, but aluminium oxide came along. So in the guise of ruby wheels, so the red ones, the pink ones, and the white ones here. Now my aluminium oxide wheel, and aluminium oxide is designed to keep it still cooler than carborundum. So that was the first advancement in wheels. Mine's profiled through choice, not through accident. So it's got a very dish in it. Now I use that for round nose scrapers and my roughing gouges with my bar, my tool rest, up really, really close. So freehand, and I find that works really well for me. The next wheel across is our CBN, so carbon boron nitrate. Now this is a steel wheel with those abrasive compound on the surface. So it doesn't need any dressing in any way at all. Stays flat, stays nice. Now CBN will keep the steel a huge amount cooler. And virtually no sparks. You get the old one every now and again. You'll get a few more with carbon steel still, but very few, especially with high-speed steel, you hardly get a few. I used to, as a demonstration when teaching, sharpen a bowl gouge and then put it on my hand because it was that cool. I'd done that until I burnt my hand one day, just because I left it there a little bit too long. So it it will still keep the steel very, very cool, but it will, if you leave it on, still get, you can still heat things up. So that's one thing to be careful of. Yes, Tom.
Yeah, Callum's got a question. Would you show how you sharpen a teardrop or a fill iron scraper on a CBN wheel?
Fill iron scraper. Yes, yes. Hold that thought. So I've got signature skew and the fill iron scraper. No problem. Okay. Yes, I will. We'll just carry on going through the wheels for the minute. And everything we're doing, from aluminium oxide to keep the steel cooler than carborundum, to CBN to keep the steel cooler than aluminium oxide, to diamond whetstone to keep a wheel to keep the steel cooler than CBN. So every stage is that one stage again to keeping things cool. And the thing, what I would say, when it comes, if you've got a carborundum wheel, or if you've got stone wheels, things like that, and you do blacken your steel, don't lose sleep over it. No one gets hurt. You know, it's not a problem. It just means that steel has been fractured. It's been made a little bit harder, it's more brittle, that the edge won't last as long, which lasts as long as that blackness disappears. So once that disappears, then you're back to the same steel again. The reason that it's an issue is because you paid a lot of money for a high-speed steel tool, and then you go and change the temper that it's as you bought it. So you're not wasting your money, you're just not getting as long a life out of it. So avoid it, but it's not ruined. Okay, just means you sharpen more often. That's all. So let's not lose any sleep over it if that happens. And as you get better, your sharpening will progress much quicker. Now, again, back in the day, we didn't have jigs and things like that. It was all freehand sharpening. Now we're blessed with loads of different jigs and a lot of really good jigs. So it should mean that your turning will progress quicker because you're going to be working with those sharp tools. So aluminium oxide, slow speed, CBN, slow speed. Now we're talking slow speed, 150 revs, in a water bath, dead quiet, no sparks, no heat, no issues. My only issue would be if you need to reshape something. So let's say you bought a new gouge, for instance, and you needed to reshape it and take a lot of steel away. It would take a lot longer on something like this because it's more sympathetic. So I would go for a cheap grinder, quickly reshape, and then put it on here to get your really, really good edge. And why do we need a good edge? Well, if I'm going away for the weekend demonstrating, I will want my tools as sharp as physically possible because they'll last longer. And if they last longer, that means I don't have to resharpen between demonstrations. So if you think about under a microscope, on the aluminium oxide, if it's coarse, the edge of that steel will be peaks and troughs. As you get finer into wheel, those troughs become shallower, and then you get just a wavy line under the microscope if you're on something like a Tormek or Hone. So you think about those big peaks and troughs, they can't break off. So your edge lasts longer. So you get a much longer lasting tool. So if you sharpen on something like a CBN, your tool will last longer than it would on an aluminium oxide. If you sharpen on something like this, the whetstone, it lasts longer than the CBN. So that's the reason behind it all. Okay. Yes, Tom, you got a question?
Yeah, a couple of questions. Andy C wants to know, can you sharpen HSS tools on an oxide wheel, or will it wear down the aluminium oxide wheel?
But yes, aluminium oxide will wear down. I mean, they're replaceable. They lose a part of themselves when they're sharpening. But that's what they're designed to do. So yes, but they are made for high speed steel as well as carbon steel. So you won't have a problem.
And Jim B wants to know, which diamond wheel is on the Tormek?
I've got the fine diamond wheel on this one. So they come in, there's a coarse, there's a medium, there's fine, and an extra fine. I found the extra fine for turning tools, it polishes more than sharpens for me. Coarse is a reshaping wheel. So I found that the best happy medium is the fine, and it does a wonderful job. And it is literally a pass over. I'll show you in a minute, but it's just a pass over from one side to another. That's all really. So no, really, really nice way of working. I have in this one, well, not in this one. I have in this one. I can keep I just drop the trough down when not in use, but I keep the water in there. Just a little tiny amount of this anti-corrosion stuff, just to stop the particles from rusting in the water and then becoming bound to the wheel. So just a little bit of that makes a big difference. Okay. So we've gone from aluminium oxide, CBN, diamond, and then to honing. So that's going to make it even sharper again. And I'm going to demonstrate that in a moment. We'll polish the edge of something, both externally on the flat wheel here, or internally on the curved wheels on the back here. So yeah, so that's why we do it. Now, a couple of safety things to consider, and because I've traveled around to different clubs and places to demonstrate, I have seen some real horror stories when it comes to CBN. Now, this is not a lecture in risk assessment and all those sorts of things, but if you are using a stone wheel, please make sure the guards are there. It is for your own safety. If one of these exploded for whatever reason, and it does happen, then we don't want lumps of stone flying across the room at 3,000 revs, a minute. So just be safe. Make sure your side guards are on, regardless of tool rests and things like that. Make sure your side guards are on. Now, just very quickly, anatomy of a bench grinder before we go to the Tormek. We've got normally a tool rest here, but the tool rest on these machines I found far too big and cumbersome. So the Tormek BGK 400 is the best thing ever, because it means I can use all my Tormek jigs on my bench grinder. And that's the thing. That is a thing that's out there. You can go and buy that BGK 400. And BGK 400 is literally this platform here, the arm, a bowl gouge jig, a multi jig, the setup jig, so the TTS 100, everything that you need as a wood turner to turn your bench grinder into a jig grinding system. So, yes, Tom.
It's actually a bit about the Tormek, actually. He said, Matt wants to know, he said, I don't know if this sounds stupid or not. Nothing ever sounds stupid or not, but can you use a CBN wheel on the Tormek?
Not that I've heard of. Not that I've heard of, no. And I don't know of any CBN wheels available for the Tormek. I guess if there were, there would be. But no, CBN's used out of water, diamond in water. High speed still on a diamond wheel dry, the diamond wheel won't last 5 seconds. That's why we use it with water and slow. And a lot of people get these confused. They look at that and think it's a diamond wheel. It's not a CBN. It's designed for high speed steel. And not necessarily carbon steel. So no, I haven't seen any available for the Tormek. Certainly not through Tormek anyway. So I don't think so.
And just slightly off topic, Martin wants to know, the Talbot Arms don't open their rooms in January. Any other recommendations?
Email me, Martin, and I'll get you a list. All right, I'll get you a list. But yeah, I didn't know that actually. So where was I? So anatomy of a bench grinder. So we've got a spark arrestor and a spark guard. Spark arrestors is to stop any big fragments from traveling around the wheel and then coming down, hitting you and bouncing up. A spark guard is exactly that. It's designed to stop sparks hitting you in the face. Nothing else. Not big fragments. They're designed to stop sparks. Goggles are at the very least needed. Now I've got safety specs here. They don't have a side guard, and if you go on courses for abrasive wheel training, they will require you to wear a fully enclosed glass here. Normally I'm sharpening with my full visor on, so everything is protected. Okay, the only thing I've got making big sparks on this one at the moment is here. Like I said, there's a few sparks on here, but so you can hear and so I can see without getting sweaty, I'm going to stick with this. Yes, Tom.
Yeah, Ward just wants to know, how do you clean a CBN wheel?
How do you clean? You can actually get a small block, which I was trying to find before, and I've put it away somewhere. Do you think I can find it? Little tiny green devil stone. It's not a devil stone, but I call them devil stones. They're finer than a devil stone, and they literally on your tool rest, you rub them across, and they clean it out. A little bit like you can get for abrasive sanding disc. You can get those rubber wheels. It's not a rubber block, but it's a soft block that just pulls out all the gunk that's within the CBN wheel. So yeah, you can get those. Look for I guess the CBN cleaning block. I won't ask Tom to do it. But yeah, ask for a CBN cleaning block. They're little tiny blocks, and you just run them across as it's running, and it works really well. It's quick. It cleans them out really quickly. Do not sharpen your pencils on a CBN because you'll clog it up too quickly, and then when it gets clogged up, it'll start heating up. And the same with one of these, an aluminium oxide. Same with any abrasive wheel. Don't sharpen your pencils on it. I've been guilty of that in the past, and although very effective, it then ruins the sharpening for the next tool. So spark guard, spark arrestor, and obviously tool rest. One other thing I'm going to say about aluminum oxide, anything that produces a spark. If you are sharpening carbon steel, the build-up of steel will be very rapid, very quick. It's a softer material than our high-speed steel, whether that's a cryo, whether it's M42, whatever it is. It's a much softer material, and you run the risk of fire if you don't clean your sharpening system out regularly. I know that from experience twice now. What you will need to do, if you've done a lot of carbon steel, take the side guard off, get rid of all the build-up of swarf in the sharpening system, because what it's doing is waiting for a spark to ignite it. And it's a little bit like wire wool. It will build up, and then suddenly you will get a very vicious, very, very hot burn going on in there. So want to make sure you keep that really, really clean if you're doing a lot of carbon steel. Yes, Tom.
Interesting. Roger Kent said he has a CBM wheel on his Tormek. He just uses it without the water.
Okay, I've never seen one. Maybe it's not designed for it, but it's got the same ball size potentially, I guess. Yeah. No, cool. So yes, that's that machine, and they're relatively quiet on. All of these machines are nice and quiet. They're not like the old sort of bone shakers that we used to get. Their slower speeds are nice. What to say about the Tormek? It's everything I want in a sharpening system, really. I'm not affiliated with Tormek. I don't work for Tormek or anything like that. I just know the finish that I get. If I, like I say, I'm going away demonstrating, I will just go straight to this one because my edge will last longer. If I'm honest with you, my go-to on a day-to-day basis is a CBN. Okay, just do it. I teach on the CBN as well, unless anybody's really nervous. If anybody's nervous about sharpening, then we'll come straight to the Tormek because it's slow and quiet. And really cool, So, but yeah, they're all working the same way. So, any questions first before I get straight into setting up a skew? No, cool. So let's set up a skew. Now, there's the SVS 50, which is the multi-jig. Where I'm not in the same situation as normal, Tom. So where should I go for close-up? Shall I go to this one? Or this one, or that one, or which is best for you? There we are. So the SVS 50 multi-jig. So that's in its skew grinding form. And then if I show you what it's like in its rough and gouge grinding form, which is that rough and gouge parting tool, anything that will fit in there. We've got two faces. Look, we've got a long face. There we go. We've got a long face on the bottom, and we've got a short face on the top. I tend to use it long face forward. But that's set up in the skew form. So I think I'm going to set that one up for you. We're going to have a look at that. Maybe, Tom, pop this camera on that's focusing on here. I wonder if I can get that focused on the setup of our skew. Are we on? Are we on? Oh, there, of course we are. I'm looking at that camera over there. You see, I'm sorry. My mistake. So look, no different really. In shot there. Yeah. No different really. If you look at the jig itself, so this is the SVS 50. We've got markings here for your jig. Basically this angle here. I never follow those. To be fair, I've never followed them. I just stick to what we've got out of the packet. So literally, as that skew turns up, that's what I grind to on here. So let's go over that. You might want to adjust that camera, Tom, because I'm going to, I want everything here in focus. Okay, so if you, is that all right? Yeah. I trust you. I haven't got a monitor to look at today, everybody. So yeah, shout at me if we're not in the right place. So look, we've got a little thumb wheel here, and we are going to go back over to the CBN in a minute, but I just want to show you on this one first. We got a little thumb wheel here. If I undo these, this bar can come in to slide in and slide out. Okay, what I'm going to do first is get this nice and close. Just use my pencil, which is not in my pocket. Here it is. Use my pencil, and I'm just going to scribe a line across that surface first. Okay, so we've got a nice little line there. Look, nice right angles to this face here. So what I'm going to do is put the skew through. No different to a normal skew, this one, in terms of how you set it up. And I'll explain as I go. So I'm going to put the skew in, lock it up. And like I say, this I'm going to do 1 in 8, 1 in 10 times. And I say it's no different to a normal skew because we have a straight line here and it's locking onto this face. Regardless of where it's gripping here, that doesn't matter. It's this line here that I'm focusing on. So we're going to lock that in. If you follow the Tormek guide, they say between 75 and 100 protrusion. Okay, so I guess that's about 70. So I'm going to stick with that. We don't need to go any more. All right, so lock him in position. Now, the next thing, let's go through and do our little bit of blue, engineer's blue on the back, the old engineer's blue trick. So we're just going to put up a little line on the back, so we know where the thing is being ground to. Now, the next thing, before I go any further, I want to make sure that the angle here is lining up with my pen. So at the moment, look, you can see it's not. I've got the heel be touching, but the other won't be. So what I'll do is adjust it just by slackening off, tighten the wheel up a little bit, and adjust to 90 degrees. There we are, lock him in position. That saves me having to worry about any of the angles on here. Of course, if you've already worked with those angles, no problem at all. So now I know that's straight, okay? Now I can start looking at actually where do we need to be for full contact. So let's get our little thumb screw back into play. So, okay, is that visible, Tom? Yeah. So you can see at the moment where we're grinding. So we're a little bit heavy on the heel. So what I need to do is just wind out a little bit further. That'll pivot that cutting edge down. Have another look. Now we're getting there. We're almost in the middle. So I'm going to try that just for a little pass. Bearing in mind that my skews have been freehand sharpened. So, but look, we're already getting to that nice full grind. Let's persevere with that a little bit. Now, what I like to do when I'm sharpening any flat chisel is put a pivot of pressure. So I'm not physically pivoting back and forward. I'm pivoting pressure from one side to the other. That stops me creating a bias grind. Because the way our bodies are made up, if you just press a flat surface down on another flat surface, you'll put a little bit more pressure on one side than the other, and that'll create a bias grind. I'm pivoting purposely back and forward of pressure to create a nice even grind. Look, we're already getting there. Bearing in mind this is a fine diamond wheel, so we're barely taking off any material at all. And I know that once this is fully sharpened, that the finish will be beautiful. Now it's a different grind on the other side because I've hand sharpened it. So we're going to do a token gesture here, because I want to show you a hone finish as well. Now, even though this is a fine wheel, it's actually taking off the metal quite quickly. We're already getting a really nice finish. There we are. Heel, I've got to work a little bit longer if I want to even that up. Okay, so can you see that good finish? What I want to do now, let's look to a honing, to doing a little bit of honing here with some abrasive compound. And now that's all I would do. Once you've got both sides even, then every time you go back to the Tormek, you know it's going to match up straight away. Mine, because I hand sharpen, aren't necessarily exact on both sides. That is not a problem. So let's take him out of the jig. You can, if you want to, set the jig up on the other side. So turn this over and use the same technique on the hone. But I don't think it's necessary, purely because we don't need to hone the whole of the bevel. All we need to do is hone the cutting edge. That's the most important bit. So let's take a little bit of this compound or abrasive paste. Like I say, you do need some on there. That's better. There we are. And I want to show you the before, so you can sort of see the, even though that's a fine, you can see little serrations there. Once you do a little bit of honing, and I'm just using this by hand, so I've got a finger locked into the bar. I'm using my hand as my honing rest. There we are. Bit of tissue. And what you'll find this does is polish. So now let's have a look. Can you, I don't know where the glint is. If I, yeah, we've got a bit of a glint going on. So right on the edge, about 2 mil on the edge, we've got a good polished, almost like a carving chisel finish. Okay, so that make a big difference. Shall we go close? Oh, we've got a close cam. We've got a bevel cam, Tom. I don't know whether that was seen. Can we get a glint? Yeah. So you can see right on the edge that we're getting that lovely polish. Now imagine that done on both sides. The cut you're going to get, and then the finish on the timber as a result of that is going to be far superior. So that's the reason we do it. Shouldn't take a huge amount of time. I think for far too long in the wood turning world, sharpening has been viewed as a bit of a black art. You're literally sharpening an edge to get you going again. Don't worry about multi-facets. That will come in time. Trying to get a single facet, you'll end up wasting your tool away. As long as your cutting edge is fine, you can have as many facets as you want on the chisel. It doesn't matter. Like I say, practice will make perfect, and you'll finally get there. Yes, Tom, question.
Well, yeah, this is kind of a question. Turned It On says, Axminster website has an aluminium oxide block as the CBN cleaner. Wonder what the difference between that and the wheel is. They've kept the wheels they took off anyway. So
I don't honestly, I don't know that one. I've only ever seen the cleaning blocks for CBN as the little green blocks. Aluminium oxide cleaning blocks are called devil stones, and they are a much harder compound altogether. They're almost like a carborundum, in the fact they might even be a carborundum. I'm not quite sure, but for CBN we tend to use a much finer block that actually wears on the CBN. The devil blocks, yeah, they wear, but not as quickly as the aluminium oxide does. I'd loathe to try a devil stone on a CBN, if I'm honest with you. I don't think that would work. I don't think that's right. Okay, if that's what we're saying.
Okay. Aaron Stowe, is the Tormek T8 worth it over the T4? They're currently using a Pro Edge, but find certain grinds harder to achieve, so may move to a Tormek.
Yeah, so for me, and again, I don't want to get into that thing about why a Tormek over a Pro Edge and it is everything to do with angles for me, though. I find that the jigs with a ultimate edge and a Pro Edge are far too close, and you can't get the angles that I can get on here or in here. A T4 is fantastic. A T8 is even better, purely for size of wheel, what it can do, the jigs available, all those sorts of things. But I've used a T4 for a long, long time. They're awesome. I would definitely go for a diamond wheel straight away if you can afford it. If you can't, it doesn't matter. Just when your old wheel wears out, maybe then look to invest in a diamond wheel. But definitely you definitely need your leather strop to help you out to finish the tools off as well. And remember, if you're into not just turning, but you're into carving and carpentry, cabinet making, all those sorts of things, we can do a lot more with this one over an abrasive wheel on here. Okay, this is far too aggressive for carving chisels, for sharpening carving chisels, and for sharpening carpentry chisels and planing irons and stuff like that. Where here we can get away with it. It's much finer. You've got the honing edge. I wouldn't go so far as to say you'll get your exact angles if you're a cabinet maker and you're trying to get exact angles on plane irons and your carpentry chisels. No, but it will reshape and it will be fine enough to hold a good edge. On carving tools, fantastic, because we've got the leather strop as well, and it's fine enough to do that. So it's sort of multi-function really.
And Callum wants to know, if your Colwyn Way skew was, say, half the length, how would you approach the CBN to hand sharpen?
But exactly that, Callum. So most of my hand sharpening on the CBN is done using the rest, but not rested on the rest. So I will, for instance, so we are flat. Can you see there all right, Tom? Yep. So I am using whether you can see a little bit longer, we'll get that lovely little hollow grind on there. Okay, so that really doesn't matter how long or short that tool is, Callum. You know, we can, because we're so close anyway, it works really well. Okay, Tom, yes.
Yeah, Darren's just saying actually that he has a Pro Edge and he finds the jigs from the Tormek work really well with the Pro Edge.
Really?
Yeah.
Good. Well, that's exactly where we're going now, really. I wanted just to show you the compatibility between these two, because we're talking a fast, relatively fast grinder and a slow one. If I want to reshape on here, I then literally keep the tool in the jig and come back over to this one, which we're going to set. I'm going to set a bowl gouge up for you, yes.
And yeah, and Stuart just wants to know, how do you sharpen a beading tool?
Beading tool is in a beading and parting tool, or a beading tool is in a round hollow one. Because if it's a round hollow one, you only sharpen the top edge. I wouldn't go to a grinder. Diamond honed only, and you diamond hone. I don't think I've got one up there. Let's say, let's go to this camera here, Tom. All right. Let's say that this. No, there's nothing I've got in here that I can demonstrate. Let's say that profile there, you can see it's pointed. Let's say that was a beading tool, so a concave in there. I would take the diamond and literally on the top, sharpen that way. Never be tempted to do anything with the actual shaped surface, because you'll ruin it straight away. So you're sharpening the top edge. I wouldn't go to a grinder or even a Tormek. I'd use my diamond hone just to sharpen that top edge. So that's by far the best way. Just before I go to the bowl gouge, also Callum was talking about a Phil Irons scraper as well. And I'm guessing, let me get my Allen keys. Again, which camera shall I go on, Tom? Should I go on this one or on that one? You tell me. That one. All right, so my irons scraper here, the shear scraper. Again, I'm not going to go to a Tormek or a bench grinder. I take that off of there. Take the screw out. Get that gone. Got some exciting new products coming through woodcut as well. We're looking at this one. This is a woodcut product, actually, the iron scraper. We've got some really exciting things coming. I'm not going to tell you about them now because they're still being developed. We're looking at them all together. So, but look, well, you'll hear about those in the next few months. All I would do, so a little bit of a sharpen on the top, and if you really need to, and really need to get a hone here, then I would diamond hone. Throw a burr up. You can use a burnisher in the same way you would a cabinet scraper to get some really nice ones. Or if you really had to use a diamond, then back to the Tormek, Tom, and it all about the flat jig. And working with the angle that you already had. So you could use a bit of black if you wanted to. There we are. I don't know which camera shows that. Use the down line. But with the flat jig here, I'm free then to move. Now, bearing in mind that this particular, using the jig this way, the wheel is coming up. So you do need to have a good amount of downward force. But I would use nothing coarser than something like this to do it. I certainly wouldn't go to one of these. For a start, it's too close. Your fingers are in peril if you go over to one of those and try and sharpen. You'll probably get your eye out or cut yourself badly. So stick to something nice and slow, nice and calm. But no, any scrapers like this, anything profile, whether it's a teardrop, whether it's the iron scraper, it's done slowly and removing the smallest amount of material as possible, hence the diamond hone and so on. All right.
And turned it also, I think this is possibly referring to the beading tool, how you sharpen that. So he's assuming that's the same approach for thread chasers as well.
Exactly, thread chasers. Yes, yeah, exactly. Never touching the actual profiled area. Just don't do it because you've ruined it straight away if you do that. So instead of the profiled area, let's grab a thread chaser. Whether it's male or female makes no difference. You can see there's a very slight. I automatically put a concave on mine anyway, but then it's just from there on, it's just a diamond hone on the top. I just find the concave just calms things down a little bit. If you have a straight scraper, it's just a little bit more aggressive. A concave, it just leads you in a little bit better. Okay, that's a 22 by looks of it. Okay, and that's the same with the internal. Your internal cutter. Okay, just literally along the very top there with your diamond hone, not touching the comb on the back. All right. What we're going to do, we're going to set up a bowl gouge. That's for a long time. Bowl gouges, spindle gouges, have been real problems for people. So my favourite jig, if I was ever asked what's my favourite jig in a pub anywhere, anytime soon, Tom.
We're going to the pub later.
We are going to the pub later.
That was my question. I was going to ask you as well.
Oh, well, there we go.
I'll have to think of another one now. Oh, okay, that's scupping.
Okay. Okay, the SVD186. All these numbers, they mean nothing apart from that's what it's called. SVD186. Bowl gouge, spindle gouges, really, really cool little system. They come, they don't come, but it's good to get a TTS 100 Tormek tool setter 100. This has all the information you need. The good thing with this, shall I go to this one, Tom? The good thing with this is if you have this, it gives you a little chart really. So bowl gouges, spindle gouges, skew chisels on this side, and the choices that you have are 5 different grinds. I tend to go with a 55-degree bevel angle, and it gives me the recipe to achieve that within the jig. In that particular recipe for a 55-degree jig setting, a 4 protrusion 65 mil through the jig and hole position A. So what you have at hole A and B. Now we're going to go over those just to show exactly how to set up. And there's all sorts of jigs out there, whether you go for the Sorby system, whether you go for the Wolverine, whether you go for one way. There's lots of them. In fact, the Wolverine is the one way, but yeah, there's lots of different jigs out there. So I'm going to go with a 3/8 bowl gouge. I'm going to pass the gouge through the jig. Where am I, Tom? Am I okay here? Yeah, or down the line, which is best for you? Down the line. So there we are. So jig, the tool is running through the jig. That's the protrusion that's spoken about on the setup guide. That has to be 65 mil. Now, cleverly, the little setter jig has different measurements here. So if you think that here we've got a 55, a 65, and then a 75, you put the tool in right up to the 65, adjust the jig, and that gives me easily set 65 mil protrusion when I take it away. In terms of the jig setting, the numbers are on the side here, and you've got a little tightener here on a little ratchet. So we're on jig position 4 because it tells me I need jig position 4. And then lastly, we set the bar distance from the wheel up. I tend to have it set all the time at this distance, but hole A, it told me on the jig. So there's my hole A, that goes on the bar. And then I just need to make both of those metal discs touch the wheel. So back, and then I know that my bar now is in the right position for the 55-degree bevel angle I've asked it to give me. So goggles down, and it's as simple as rotating that tool all the way around, bringing it back up again, all the way over and down the other side. I don't do a lot of thinking about this. It literally is just a natural act. Over and back again, over and back again. Nice and simple. Nowhere to go wrong, really. The only thing to do in terms of going wrong is spending too long on the wings. If you spend too long on the wings like this, you'll end up making a single point in the middle. If you spend too long in the center up here, you'll bring 2 points forward. And so all we're doing is shaping this gouge to the shape I want it to be, which it was already there, to be honest. Now, I've already done about 10 times longer on that sharpening as I would normally do. Normally, I'll do 2 or 3 passes and I'm done. Okay, and because of that, it's got a little bit warmer. I won't touch the end of that, but what I will do, it's not black, it's not blue, it's just a little bit uncomfortable if I touch it. What I will do is just give it a little bit of a quench in water and the job done. Okay, and that gives you that that nice 55-degree bevel angle. And in this case, a single bevel, not multifaceted. Like I said, I'm not worried if there is a couple of facets, makes no odds to me, really. And in fact, sometimes it's good to have a double bevel. So on a bowl gouge, I might want to take the heel away, for instance. Taking the heel away, going through the internal part of a bowl, the inside of a bowl, you'll get rid of a lot of those little ribs on the inside, and some of that breakout that you see on opposite faces of the bowl will be minimized if you take the heel away. Because if you think what's happening, the physics of a bowl gouge, if you just have a straight edge, you're trying to cut a concave, i.e. the inside of a bowl. Your front face will be touching, so the cutting edge, and the heel will be touching, but the middle of the bevel won't be touching. If you can do or reshape this to make sure that the middle of that bevel's touching as well, it's a supported cut, then you get less breakout, less tearing. So by taking the heel away for your insides, perfect, much better job. Now, what I would do then, if I'm going away, doing a little bit of, traveling to a local club, and I need to do a whole day demo, I would go straight to the honing wheel here, give that a little hone. There we go. And just give that a little wipe clean. Now, I've always joked in the past, it's not really a joke, but if anything's going to cut somebody in a workshop, it's doing what I'm doing now. It's this procedure here. So you do that really, really carefully, but I don't know whether that's visible on that camera. Shall I go to the close one of that one? But let's have a good look at that. Now you can see the sort of sharp edge that we've got there where I've used the honing wheel. It's just give that extra little bit of a glint on the cutting edge. That will last me a considerable amount of time, or a lot longer if it was just straight off an aluminium oxide wheel, for instance. Okay. What else can I do, Tom? Is there anything on there? Let's just have a quick look. I'll tell you what, high-speed steel v carbon. Aluminium oxide. I don't know whether we're going to get this in. Let's go. I'll do it on the... We'll go CBN then. So high-speed steel. Very little, very few sparks. Yeah, a few, but not many. Whether the camera's going to pick this up. This is my lovely skew that I had as an apprentice. I very rarely take this to the mechanical sharpening system because it's carbon steel. It's lasted me for 40 years, I think. Someone else had it before me. But you'll get a lot more spark. I don't know whether you can see those sparks on camera, but we're getting a lot more sparks than we would do with high-speed steel. Lot of sparks. Now, those are the ones to be careful of. Those are the ones that will ignite if they build up inside of your wheel. There we are. Whew. Any more questions, everybody? How are we doing? What have we covered? We covered basic tools. So I did say about roughing gouges. If I want to sharpen my roughing gouge, I'm on this bar here. I've got a slight dish to my my aluminium oxide wheel, so I can then just sharpen away. Now already this is high-speed steel. I've turned the machine off, so it's dead slow, but a lot more sparks on the high-speed steel. If I introduce carbon steel, it's going to be even more. But that's a nice, simple way of doing your roughing gouges. I never worry too much. I never get too caught up in angles on many tools, really. Barmer bowl gouges, and obviously skew chisels. We don't have that too acute. Yes.
Oh yeah, Paul just wants to know what was the bar system called?
So that's a Tormek system. So BGK 400 is the system to be able to put it onto your bench grinder. It's independent from the grinder itself, so it doesn't have to attach. So that means that it doesn't matter what make of grinder it is, you'll still make that work. I tend to mount them on a board. You can see on here that this is all separate, so I can take that around. This and the grinder all stay together. I can clamp it down if I'm demonstrating somewhere that I've just got a small table on. So that, for me, that works really, really well. You can also get, and I can't remember what the name is, Tom, I don't know about you, just the bar and the mount without all the jigs. So if you've already got a Tormek and all the jigs, you can buy just the bar and the mount in itself. And like anything Tormek, if you've got the mount and you want to buy another side, you can get the bar separately and get all the jigs separately and things like that. So I think it's a BM something, but you have to look online for those. So yes, I think we're there then. If we have any questions.
Oh yeah, Roger just wants to know what grit is your CBM wheel?
Well, 180 grit. Yeah, it's a nice sort of. I don't know whether they class that as fine or not, but it is quite fine when it's the closest thing I found to my Tormek, if I'm honest with you. So yeah, really, really nice. One other thing I have remembered. Any more questions before I go and grab it? So one other thing. Let's say, for instance, you're wanting to sharpen, as you know, I'm a massive fan of. You're wanting to sharpen your hollowing system, and in my case, that's a woodcut. Again, one of the best you can get because it works. What I do with these, so sorry, Tom. So there we are. There's my business end of one of the woodcuts. This comes off, so the top. So I only then have my carbide tip, and then I've made a couple of. I've got 3 of them here. Just a couple of little jigs. Okay, so little wooden jigs, and basically that slot on. So remember this is going to come off. That slots in there. Okay, I do my little grub screw up, and then again I'm back on to my flat plate on the Tormek. If I need to, you don't definitely, when it comes to the woodcuts, you don't want to be going to a CBN, you don't want to be going to aluminium oxide, you don't want to be going to that size of wheel, because what we mustn't do is put too much of a curve on this part of your cutter. That needs to be kept relatively straight. So a Tormek with this size of wheel, and the T8 we're talking about, not the T4, if we needed to give a mechanical sharpen at all, that would be the only thing I went to. But on one of those blocks, it needs to be held securely. So just using the flat system, and I found that works really well.
So Teddy Laws said anyone can answer this, but I'll get you to answer it. The video seems to show Tormek spinning away while most grinders spin towards.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can use the Tormek. So if we're talking about plain irons, that sort of thing, you can get a series of jigs that allow you to have the bar up here. And then the wheel will be coming toward the jig. The Tormek itself can be span around, so you can use it with the wheel coming toward you. So that is not generally for turning tools, it's generally for carpentry, chisels and irons, and planer knives.
Yeah, I think that's kind of answers Paul's question. He says, does the Tormek have 2 positions for the bar? And
yeah, one thing I don't have for my Tormek here is the little carousel. So you can put it on a carousel, you can literally pivot around. It's on like a lazy Susan bearing. I don't need to, because I'm only doing turning tools on this one, so I need it running that way permanently. And so because you're held within a jig, it works, you know. And I think probably it's certainly the old Tormek wheels. They would be too soft if the wheel was coming toward you with turning tools. We get away with it on this sort of thing. Aluminium oxide, carborundum, CBN, it's really hard. So it can afford to come toward us without damage. But of the softness of the old wheels on the Tormek probably wouldn't work.
Yeah, and Aaron just wants to know if you could have one small sharpening system in a small setup workshop, what would it be?
It's a Tormek. I'm torn a little bit. Tormek or a slow speed bench grinder with a CBN. I'd probably go CBN, because then I'll have yeah, I would this, because I can put whatever I want here. I can put reshaping wheel on there if I want to, and I can put a fine CBN on this one at slow speed. It will give me as close as I can get to the Tormek. Definitely. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right. Well, I think we're done. Have we exhausted the questions? No, I mean, when it don't. I'm talking to you all now as if I'm teaching. Don't be scared when it comes to sharpening. It's a necessity. It's what we have to do, even if it means taking a diamond hone and just sharpening by hand with a diamond hone. It will help you with your learning to turn. Take as much advice as possible. There's so many expensive gadgets out there, to be fair. It's very difficult to clear the smoke sort of thing, but you can go for as cheap a grinder as you want to with CBN wheel on it. If it's just a fast grinder, it will still work. It's probably the calmest and cheapest way around it. Slow speed will definitely improve things. Water and slow speed will make things a little bit more sympathetic, but the best advice I can give you is go with a jig. It's like having a tutor there with you all the time. The reason I prefer the Tormek jigs is because they're backed up fully with all of the information you need. You don't just get given a jig and then be told just to get on with it. It's got information. It tells you if you do this and this, you will get this angle wise. Yeah. So that will help you immensely when you're learning to sharpen. Books are another great asset. Obviously, the Keith Rowley's Foundation course is wonderful. Listen to as many people as you can. Listen to as many people as you can, but don't take any one person's as gospel. Okay, so look at lots of different people's experiences and get out what you can out of it. Yes, Tom.
And Julian's just said, have you covered sharpening short gouges? He's only just come in.
Yeah, so short gouges could be a problem. If I have, let's go for the shortest gouge I have. This is a lovely little thing. So if I have a gouge like that, where would you want me to go, Tom?
Probably that one.
That one there. So that's had a hard life, this one. It's been used a fair amount. Two issues with short gouges. Firstly, you're going to run out of space here. So if I'm trying to get a 65mm protrusion through my jig, I can still get it on this one, look. But I've ran out, so 65mm. So I've still got that. I've still got enough length there. We've still got a little bit more back here, actually. So we've got a little ways to go. But what you don't have is you don't have a flat to run the jig on. So normally these bear centrally by locating on the flat section of the flute. So what you have to do is just align over the top of it and make sure that that flute is facing upwards. Okay, and so it's just you standing above the jig, making sure that flute's facing upwards, and then nice and central. But you know, if you're a millimeter out, does it make any difference? I don't believe it does really.
Julian has said that his are getting very short and won't fit in the jig.
Well, the thing, well, you can hand sharpen then, so that's the best thing to do. Hand sharpen, diamond hone, all those sorts of things, and then of course when you lose the flute, you can grind them into a round skew, or beading and parting tool, you know, so or scraper.
And yeah, just Nigel wants to can you just confirm why you prefer a wheel sharpener rather than a linisher like the Pro Edge?
So I don't believe I can get as sharper edge off a linishing type, and the angle, I can get far better angles off here. I've got far more ways to move around the sharpening system. I can get better angles on it basically, but I haven't found a linishing belt yet that gets as good an edge as I can get off of the CBN or the Tormek through personal experience. So please don't shout at me, everybody. Right then, everybody, if that's good, Tom, yes, we're going to sign out. We're going to see you I think we're going to see you in a fortnight's time. So we're back to schedule again now, hopefully. I haven't figured out what we're going to do yet, so just keep watching. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up if you like what you see. If you really enjoyed today or any of the other videos, just give us a thumbs up. It really does mean a lot. It gives us an idea that we're doing something right. And if you don't like what you see, just let us know why. That would be really helpful. You know, we can change things or we can do a few other things. And keep suggestions about what you'd like to see coming in as well, because we're loving these. We really enjoy them. But subscribe to the channel. That's the other thing. And hit the notifications button so that when we do another live, you'll be notified of it. And if you can't watch live, come and watch in the evening or a few days later. So thank you very much. And I'll see you in about a fortnight's time. Bye-bye.